welcome Deanie French, and welcome everybody to Etchings. So Deanie will speak about her work, and she'll take us on a tour through all the different phases and different rooms of the exhibit. And we are just so honored that our treasurer, Deanie French, has honored us with this exhibition and little snippets of her life's work. So thank you all for being here, and Deanie, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Doris. So, hey, this is amazing. I just love having my virtual family together with my art family here, and it's great to see your faces. So, wow, what a time to get everybody together here. So, so here's the chance. I'll kind of just be a little biographical, and I hope to take maybe 20 minutes or half hour for questions, which there probably arise, but I'll just give you a little spiel. So people have asked me, when I started doing art, and well, from the beginning, I guess. And I had some funny preconceptions about what an artist was, because I thought that my father's work was actually real art, and that I wasn't sure that other people were making real art. So that's always been a bit of a question, which led to a kind of a feeling of having to be more than I was, and having to be perfect. So that was a trailed along with me for many years until I think I was in my 40s. But I'll speak to that in just a minute. So my first formal training in art was in figure drawing with George Demetrius, who was a sculptor and a teacher in Gloucester, and my cousin Susie, who's on that Zoom. She and I went together to his classes, and we were maybe 13, 14 in there. And then we'd go swimming in Folly Cove afterwards. And George was a real taskmaster, and he would get behind you, and he would take your hand and your charcoal, and he'd say, faster, 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 and his whiskers would stick in the top of your hair. But it did get me the physical feeling of what it's like to draw quickly, to draw with expression. So even though at the time I was still shrunk, and my drawings were pretty small and careful. So so what you see here are drawings from mostly the 90s, I would say, and these were done, some of them, when a sculptor named Daniel Altschuler brought a model into my father's studio, and my father was in his 80s, and maybe late 80s even, and we drew from a model together. And so that was a huge thing to be able to actually enjoy it, because I had felt that I always had to rise to his stature somehow. And some of these are 8 drawings that I did at Bennington one summer. They're just real quick. There's a few etchings here from way back. I did go to Rhode Island School of Design after having taught art to children for a few years, and I got a master's degree in education there. And I had a chance to use the etching presses and silk screen and all that kind of stuff. So yes, so I think we can move on to another. Let's just move here. So So, and I think I wrote in my little biography that some of you might have read that I doodled all the time in school. I had, my notebooks were full of doodles in the margins, and I used to love to draw faces. So, yeah, somebody is not muted on there, so if you just check your mute and make sure that you are.
Yeah, so maybe turn the sound
That'd be
down.
good.
Yeah, I'm just gonna do that.
So, yeah, so just faces, and more faces. Some of these were really recent and just, well, the ones up top were just, Lisa and I taught a class in wild portraits, what was it?
Mhm.
Wild bride portrait.
Wild ride portraits, yeah, I should know that. And, so there's something happening on the Zoom screen, and I hope it's okay. So, those very small ones were really, really fun to do. I don't know who drew them, but I, had something to do with my pen. Yeah, so just, okay, so we can move on. And this is, I should say, here's a little side thing. My Aunt Laura was a portrait painter. Who actually did more pastels. I have a cousin who's online there, who's an illustrator, and another cousin who's an amazing draftsman and graphics guy. So I was surrounded, it's sort of, it is in the DNA. I think we can say that that's true. And also, having said that, and worked with little kids from the time, from first grade through ninth grade, it is not just in the DNA, because a lot of people discover they can do way more than they believed they could, which is also Art and Soul's mission. Okay, so that one is in tempera. I don't have any idea what year it was, but I was younger. And this one is acrylic, and I don't know when I did that either, and I was younger there too. So can we just slide over here? So we don't have to linger here very long, but these are, I did study printmaking, and there are a few examples of etchings and monotypes and some watercolors and a page of graphic studies, and I hope you can recognize that that's a crustacean up at the top. And anyway, so and that drawing there on the side, I think I struggled for a while thinking that figurative work and abstract work were really far from each other, and I didn't want to. My drawings had been pretty tight when I was younger, and I kept feeling that was the kind of, I just wanted to push out of that in a inhibited kind of the constraints of that. So I don't know how this drawing strikes anybody, but it's an oil pastel, and it's just lines, but it was a deeply emotional drawing for me. And I still love looking at it. It's a valley where I used to walk when I lived in Western Mass with my husband and 2 kids. Yeah, I think I want to talk about that when we're here. I had a misapprehension also that because I believed that things had to look the way they look in my drawings, that I had to capture exactly what was there. I kind of focused on the outer, just the appearance of things. And so it took me probably till I was about 40 or so to realize that there was a whole inner, and that came through authentic movement. And it was the only art form that I had tried that didn't leave a trace. So when my first experience with art, authentic movement, when you move with a witness with your eyes closed, I felt such a sense of expansion on the inside that I hadn't recognized. I had never had that before. And I lay on the floor and it felt as if my body was getting really, really long. And I had just sensations that were unfamiliar. And so I had a practice of authentic movement for 8 years. And that really helped to change my orientation from being so outward focused to having a feeling of an inner spirit. So, and I think that drawing grew out of that time. So, all those, authentic movement, meditation, all that stuff has really fed into what I've become at this point. So, we're going to walk past dynamic mandala here. Very physical. Very. I like to work sometimes really, how do you say, passionately, physically, kinesthetically. I'm a very kinesthetic person, it turns out. Didn't know that. Oh yeah, the angels. So we can just keep moving, okay? Okay, so when I met Nima, that was a surprise. And she's been one person, I've always listened to Nima's advice, which comes on pretty strong, as you know. So she would say, you have to go to California. You have to do this painting experience. You've just got to do this. So I did. And so these California paintings, we're calling them, were not meant to be shown. They were not done for an audience. It is another form, really, of meditation. And it is also a very physical work. You walk back and forth between your wall and the paints. The paints are all set, the colors, 24 colors are all there for you on the table. And all you have to do is just keep moving and keep moving and keep moving. So I worked in a group of a number of people, I think 20, it could have been at least 20 people in this studio in California. And it was highly energized because we painted for many hours a day and with very few breaks, no conversation, no music. There are rules to the painting. You have to, once you've committed, you put your paper down and you get your painting going, and you do not turn the paper, you do not mess with it, you do not cover up what you've painted before, so you're not obliterating any mark that you've made. You just keep at it and keep adding things and painting things that you would not paint unless you were in a boiler room. I mean, it felt like a pressure cooker. So, and I tried doing these paintings alone at home, and it works, but it doesn't work as well as it does in a group, just the way so many things are. And since they weren't meant to be shown, it's a kind of a way of getting your vitality into your work. And so these, I think people do respond to them. I mean, say, what drugs are you on? Or, but and images would keep occurring, and you just paint them until till you've worn them out. So it's a very energizing way of working, and I am going to be working with people who are interested in finding out what this does. So it was Michelle Cassou and Stuart Cubley that I worked with in San Francisco. So yeah, and we call this the back room, and did not invite children into this room, although a little kid came last night. She wasn't at all, she just, yay! So, but I haven't painted like this for a long, long time. This was in the 90s, and but it did help move me along, and I was less scared of what would come out. And I remember one painting instructor years ago was going over my work with me, and he said, you really ought to psychoanalyze yourself. And I thought I was troubled by that, but anyway, it didn't stop me all the way. So yeah, this is a tricky room to get in and out of, but I think I'll just go back the way we came. So this brings us to the present. Yes. That painting there, that meditator painting, belongs to a massage person, Kathleen Campbell-Smith in East Nashville. So she's loaned it to us for the show. So during the pandemic, we've been working online in a program called Time Out on Fridays, and I just got into a lot of collages during the winter, and yeah, I just found it very focusing, very, very focusing, and very kind of delightful, actually. Just like fitting the puzzle pieces together. So these three are the guardians of the air and the earth and the water, and above it is a painting I call the Meditators, because I actually had a dream once, I guess, of kind of a pyramid of meditators, yeah, all in orange. So, and yes, having gone to India, having done the Isha yoga program, also made a huge difference in my steadiness and willingness to change. And I think this pandemic and these seasons and all of this just upheaval everywhere, my mini experience of that in India was that the Sadhguru was always teasing people, and we'd have programs going. I was teaching in the school at the ashram, and when you teach school, you set up programs, and you have expectations that you're going to present things, and he was always pulling the rug out from everybody all the time. He just, it's just, he made life a roller coaster. He hated people to think that there was a stopping place. So I mean, there is. The joke is have inner stability while the ship is rocking all around you, and that for that I am profoundly grateful. I don't know how I would live without that sense of having experienced and being able to drop in again and again to the place of equanimity. I do not know how I would survive without it, or anybody else for that matter. So and of course the earth changes and everything that are happening around us all the time are of enormous concern. The gift of this show, however, is that I have been able to pull myself together through the art making. And so I've got to get this stuff ready for the show, so I can't think about saving the world today. So, but I also want to encourage, and I know all of you, anything that any small attention that you can pay to especially the use of water. I mean, I'm more aware of it now than ever, having worked with these feelings for water, because we come from the ocean and everything's flowing back to the ocean, and if you join I know there's the climate change group in Gloucester, and here we have the Cumberland River Compact, and we have 10 Green, Land Conservancy, and the Southern Environmental Law Center. Those find a local thing, is all I can say. So let's move. All right, how are we doing time-wise? So, so this wall is, these are recent collages to my right. These are pandemic, all of these are pandemic pieces, except this, and that. Yeah, I mean, it's a mix here, but the collages are the most recent. And as I say, I had a whole catalog of cutouts or pages from National Geographic and Audubon and everything. So I would just kind of mush them around, and you know how when you're in the energy, just one thing leads to another, and so I had a whale of a time, with those little square collages, and just thinking off and on about how oblivious we are, all of us, to where we are on the planet and what's making it possible for us to live. And I know everyone I've talked to over these past couple years have said again and again, I have to get outside, I have to be in nature, I must breathe the air, and instead of inside our own masks all the time. So for me, growing up in Gloucester, it gave me a real sense of just the freedom of being outside freely, anywhere, anytime. You just open the door and you can find a birch tree or pine tree, or you can get yourself to the ocean. And I do feel tremendously confined by being inland, tremendously confined, which is probably why I have to do so many of these kinds of things. And I think I wrote in my piece that after my mother died, she was such a nature person, that I felt quite unhinged for a few years, and I didn't realize that depression ran in my family on the other side. So I had to spend time lying on the ground. I had to be sitting on the ground, lying on the ground, getting my feet in the water, and I realized that nature had always been my mother, and I really had to. It wasn't a joke. It wasn't just a saying. It was for real, because that's how I located myself. So these paintings are kind of an offshoot of having gone through experiences like that. And so I had, sometimes when I paint now, I will put words from mantras in my paintings, or I did a series of ohms, there's a practice of doing many ohms, one after another for 15 minutes, and sitting quietly, which is also helps to bring the anxiety level down. Very easy to do. Just remembering to do it is the main thing. And also a lot of the theme of my work has been, where am I? Where do I belong? And so this is an example of trying to find my place around the planet, or and the red has been a lifeline color to me. There's that archipelago painting over there is also, I think I called it something else before. It was like where in the world, or something like that. And on the wall behind Steve and Virginia and Beth and Bill, there are a couple pencil drawings which you'll have to pick up another time, but one is the journey from Cape Ann to Nashville. And maybe for the sake of the Cape Ann people, later on you could do a little show of that. Yes. And another painting that I'm very connected to, and I'm not letting it go just yet, is the Finland Dream painting. And I think I might have painted it before I went to Finland, but not sure. I think probably. And Finland is a land of my forebears, and it's a land that's still rising out of the ocean, because the glaciers pressed down so heavily upon that part of the. But now I guess everything's shifting now. Some are rising and some are sinking. I don't know, getting covered up. Yeah. So I think that's about the size of it. There's a slideshow that comes and goes at that end, and I want to thank Nalani put the music together. I have four full CDs were burned with my favorite music, so we'll get those going again. And the team, we got Robin and Doris and all, Will and Nima, and just most of the people in this room have contributed in a big way, or in some way of supporting me. And this is I realize that this is my spot in Nashville. This is my spot where I can come and feel home-like. I wish that I could get the two homes, the Cape Ann and Nashville, kind of closer together. Maybe the earth will make it happen. Yeah, and I think the question about being a working artist, what is a working artist, has kind of bugged me, and I have not devoted, or I've not thought that I devoted myself to making art. It's something that I've done at times with ambivalence, but I just kind of keep doing it. And then I realized I don't have to be a working artist, I can be a playing artist, and that's what this place has offered to me and everybody here. And so I bow to my partner and to all of us who keep coming back. So there. So thank you. If you have questions or anything,